The first question comes from my favorite Klingon. His name is Homer, and he also worked with me on the Kollektiv magazine, and he has thought out a first question to begin the interview with, to kick it off, as you might say.
Sir, I'm a fan of you. Of course, I know you from Star Trek and from some other movies you did early on in your career. But Manuel tells me that you are very big into astronomy, and you literally have a professional telescope. You have purchased a professional, astronomer level telescope that you use to gaze at stars.
Yes. Well, I have 6, I think, telescopes altogether. They're all different sizes, different types, and those are mostly optical telescopes. I've been doing this for 35 years plus, and I do have one that is what's called an imaging telescope, which allows me to, if I wanted to track asteroids, if I want to look at deep sky objects, if I want to record occultations, which are basically when an asteroid, a planetary body passes in front of a star and blocks the light out from that star for a minute, I can actually track and record those events when they occur with this telescope. So, yeah, I've as far as the pinnacle of what I own, that particular instrument would be one of those things, and it's relatively small in size and very portable. And very, expensive. Yeah, it's kind of pricey. But it does some things that the other telescopes that I have just cannot do. And it even does it within the city of Los Angeles with all the lights we have and stuff. So it's amazing. So, but then I have the optical telescopes as well for the planets and individual stars and things like that really look very nice. In an optical telescope more so than this other one. So you have to have a variety of them if you're going to do this hobby on a kind of a regular basis.
Mm-hmm. That's a hell of a hobby. So let me ask you this. Have you found anything yet?
As far as?
You're coming through the stars and
I haven't found anything.
We know.
Yeah. I haven't found anything anomalous yet. No, nothing that stands out or that is unusual. As much as stargazing as I have done, I have not seen a bloody thing that is not explainable. Just the typical stuff, meteorites and things like that. That's it, man. And the occasional satellite passing overhead. That's all.
One could say you haven't found shit.
I haven't found shit. Yes, exactly.
We're sorry. We had to do that.
All right. It's okay.
I tried to convince him not to make you say that again, but yeah, we saw a few minutes ago that you did an interview where you said you're a trained actor and you're reduced to this one sentence all the time. So very sorry about that, but we have to bring it up. It's just too funny. It's just too funny. Your involvement with the Griffin Observatory as well, is it just a selfish involvement so you could look at the skies better, or is it to educate people to maybe bring them to do science or to put their interest?
Yeah. The Griffin Observatory in Los Angeles, I partner with them, with the Los Angeles Astronomical Society. We all go up there, and it's a public outreach thing where we can allow the public, we bring our telescopes up there, and we allow the public to look through them. Maybe once a month when it's open, when we're past all the COVID stuff, we'll do it probably. It's on average once a month, and we'll go up there usually on a half moon or a 3/4 moon, so that people can look at the planets and the moon that night up there, and they're absolutely fascinated by all of that. And I've been doing that for almost 2 years now. So, and I really enjoy it. It's I think it inspires people and enlightens them, and they get a chance to see something that they've never seen before, without having to go somewhere and pay a lot of money for it. It's all free. So, I enjoy doing that. And Laura Danley, who is the director of the Griffith Observatory, I know her very well. We did a couple of podcasts there that were live a while ago, and I really, I like staying in touch with the people that work up there I think she's going to be leaving. I think she's either going to teach or she's retiring. I'm not sure. She might be going to teach, but she's going to be leaving there. So I don't know who's taking over. I'll have to find out. But anyway, yes, Griffith Observatory. It's great. And hopefully as soon as we can get back to going up and spending time with all the people, watching and looking at the planets and the moon.
So it's not the reason you are involved with them is not so you can use like the professional, like the real big time telescopes that they have to just like have fun with it, but really to I've looked through their telescope several times. It's a big refractor, and I've used it several times and I've been allowed to go up and take a look at things. The last thing we looked at was the Mars close approach through it, which was not so great because it was in the middle of a sandstorm. So at the end of the day, I've used it to look at Jupiter and Saturn. It's a spectacular telescope. It's really beautiful. It's an amazing instrument, and it's been there for a very long time. But yeah, it's primarily I've already used it on more than one occasion. I've been able to look through it. It's not the type of telescope that you would use, for example, to take deep sky images and things like that of objects. It's just a refracting telescope. It's a big piece of glass is what it is. So as opposed to a mirror, a really large mirror, which that would be more interesting to look at deep sky objects with, and maybe image some things over a period of time. But the problem is with that is that there's so much city light. It's really not. Not that it's not easy to use a mirror just for gathering light in the city because you're going to be gathering all the rest of the city's light as well.
Yeah, I think the Griffin Observatory maybe is in this position maybe to inspire some people and to educate some people, but not really to.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's got a bunch of stuff inside it. I mean, there's all kinds of things inside the actual observatory. There's an upstairs and a downstairs. There's meteorites. There's all kinds of displays, and it's really wonderful. And they've remodeled the whole place, so it's really a nice trip and a lot of tourists. I mean, busloads of tourists.
Okay.
When that place is open, it is crazy up there. It's very busy.
Some occasions one could also meet you there, right?
Once a month at least.
Yes, as a matter of fact, we're Griffith Observatory's website has a calendar. Mm-hmm. And they list the public star parties or star viewings that are up there, and those are the ones that I go to, and that's on their calendar. It'll list which dates are on, and I typically try to make it up there for most of them. Sometimes I'm not able to, or sometimes the weather is just crap and you can't go up there. But otherwise, if it's a clear night and I'm available, I'll be there. I've made every single one that I could.
Great. Just because we have you on the line, if you had to give somebody your opinion about what they should do with their life, what would you recommend? Is it physics or like astronomy, acting, or comedy?
Oh, I can't advise someone as to what they should do with their lives. I have no place on this planet, being able to or having the authority to do anything like that. I don't have. The individual has to make up their own mind. They have to decide what they want to do with their lives. If they want to go into entertainment, I can give them a rundown on that. Physics and things like that. I don't make a living as an astronomer. I don't make a living as a physicist. I don't have a degree in those subjects. It's just it's pastime for me. It's a hobby. But for a professional career, they're going to have a go in the direction of their aptitude, whatever they're likely to be fairly good at. For example, accounting would not be one of my first choices. For me to go down, that's not me, man. And anything that involves miles of paperwork and figures and facts, it's not me. I have nothing to do with any of that. So I would not go that direction. But other people might have the aptitude to go that direction. They may have an artist a bug in them, so they're really good at drawing or sculpting or whatever it might be. They might be good at dance. They might be good at the performing arts. They might be good at computer science and coding for computers. I mean, have at it, Hoss. Whatever floats your boat. They might be good at business and entrepreneurial skills and things like that. You have to, or sales. I could never tell anybody what they would do. I could only advise them that, perhaps they could try to go for something that is rewarding to them at the same time that they're able to make a living at it. If you can combine those two things, I think you're sailing, right alongside. You're sailing happy. And if you're not able to do that, at least you've got a job that pays your bills and your mortgage and whatever it might be. And then you find, of course, the pastime, the hobby on the side that gives you that fulfillment and enjoyment. And the money you make from your job, you can help to fund whatever that hobby is. So, that's the two choices you have, really.
How did you find out what you wanted to pursue career-wise? What gave you the incentive to go into entertainment, into acting? And also a piggyback question there, what you like more to play comedic roles or to play like dramatic roles?
Well, the first, I became interested in theater when I was in high school, so it was very, very early. I was playing music when I was 15, and playing in bands at 16, and I'm still playing in music and stuff today. So I was already interested in performing. I was interested in performing on stage and performing either in music or in a capacity or in theater. And eventually it became film television, and I went to study it in college. So once the bug bit me, man, I already knew which way I was going. And I subsequently went to college to study it and then pursued it professionally afterwards. I knew what I wanted to do. And was lucky enough to get it on the road. And the parts don't matter. I like doing comedy. If it's written well, it's got to be written well enough to be done. Comedy is a very tricky thing, it's a lot harder than people might think it is. To do it right,
you would turn down a part as a comedic actor if it's not really written well. What is written well for you?
Well, I would want to be able to work with a director on the project. Maybe they're the writer. Sometimes they are. Sometimes they aren't. To try to get it funnier, I might come up with some things myself. I might come up with a line or a line reading or a line phrasing that's different than what they have written. I might want to suggest that we try this or we try that in terms of what the scene is all about to see if it could be funnier. If I don't think that it's hitting the mark, you know what I mean? Again, comedy is very, very, it's very subjective and it's very, very tricky and hard to do really, really well. For example, I have turned down comedy. I turned down the original script of the movie Soul Plane. Back in the day. Soul Plane was a black African-American based comedy. Although it was written by somebody who was not African-American. I think they might have been Jewish.
What the movie looked like. Okay.
Yeah. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Kevin
the one
that movie, right?
Yeah, he did. I was for a role in the movie. I wasn't reading for the lead role. I was just reading for a part that was in it. And what you saw was not the version that I read, that they gave me. That the version they gave me was 3 times worse than what you saw. Mm-hmm. So that, for example, just as an example, is not my style of humor. It's not my preference for a style of humor. I don't mind sometimes a broad vaudevillian slapstick style humor. That I worked with on Spaceballs. Mel Brooks likes that kind of humor. He digs that. There's the Cohen style of humor. There's who is it? Seth Rogen. There's all those different styles of humor. The Airplane style of movie, the Coen brothers. I think the Airplane was Coen brothers. I like the subtle stuff. I like British humor a little bit over American humor because it's more sophisticated. I like the smart stuff, the stuff that's not, just dumbed down, for the lowest common denominator. That's just not my style of stuff, in terms of narrative scripted comedy, right?
Yeah.
So if I have that Soul Plane as an example, I told the casting person, I'm not going to read for this because it's absolutely horrid. It was actually insultingly stereotypical and buffoonish, and I just wasn't gonna do it. So I've turned down a number of projects over the years that are supposed to be whatever, and the writing is just crap. I'm not gonna enjoy doing it, so I'm not gonna do it. It's just I just don't bother with it. I just pass on it. Everybody thinks they can do that stuff, and they can't. I can tell you now, they can't.
Yeah. I think a movie like Airplane, you could not make it anymore. Like in this day and age, you could not produce that movie again. And I think it's good.
That's an interesting point. I don't know if you could or if you couldn't. Maybe you could, depending upon how you styled it. It is a style of humor. Depending upon how well it was made and how well it was written and how well it was performed and produced, you might be able to get away with it. But I see what you're saying. You're saying because culturally we've moved on and we're in another realm now that maybe it would not be as appealing. But if we never had Airplane and you brought it out right now for the first time, I think it would be a hit. Because what really catches people's attention are things that they haven't seen before, things that are different, things that break the mold. And the Airplane kind of broke the mold. And although the series did not do very well, the guys that did the series, a Police Squad, it's the same kind of humor and the same people involved in it, and it did not go over at all.
You mean Police Academy?
It was no, not Police Academy. Police Academy was movies.
Yeah,
I think Police Academy was in a series of films, if I'm not mistaken. Whereas Police Squad was with Leslie Nielsen, who was in Lethal Weapon. I'm sorry, Naked Gun.
Yes.
The same guys that did Naked Gun, which is the same kind of humor as Airplane.
Mm-hmm.
That Naked Gun was a TV series before it was the movie. It was a television show, and it was called Police Squad, I think is what it was called. And it was the same style of humor. Very dry, very flat. Very understated, and you don't give attention to the joke. You don't hit the joke. The joke is in the background. The joke is underlying. You play everything straight, and the gags are behind you or around you. And that's the kind of stuff that I think is brilliant. But it didn't have a laugh track on it, so I guess people couldn't figure out where to laugh. They're dumb as a brick, most of them. Yeah, it's the dumbed down. Again, that's dumbing down your audience, dumbing down your population. Now it's reality shows with people and their stupid life at home and whatever. I mean, give me a break. That's where the entertainment has gone. It's shoot straight down.
Well, even worse in some cases, because right now nobody has to produce the reality TV shows because there are Instagram influencers and people who are producing them for free, and they're representing some fake life, and the people are just eating it up, and they're like, you get $1 now for what you have, recommendations and things like that. Yeah,
dumbing down again, another level of dumb down.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. We're just going to be reduced to a population of slugs before you know what it's all about, and it'll be slug humor. I don't know, how much dumber and how much more vacuous people can become, entertaining themselves by watching somebody play a video game online. I mean, I don't know. How is that exciting and entertaining? I just don't. I don't understand it. So that's where we're. That's where we might be headed as far as the next Generation Z. Who are enamored with watching folks play a video game. Instead of playing a video game themselves, which is enough time waster right there to begin with. But to watch somebody else play it, that's like multiplied by that. And or watching somebody as an influencer, quote unquote, an influencer. I don't know what they're influencing them to do except to be dumber than what they already are.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah. Sounds a little like you never took the time to watch Star Trek Voyager for the whole
series,
like me did. I think I didn't waste time by watching, for example, Star Trek Voyager, I think 3 times in a row, every episode. Well, you could also do that in a very short amount of time like I did. So I kind of did it concentrated. But do you think, what do you think in entertainment, beside, of course, your own projects you get off the ground, is culturally valuable right now? Is there anything that you find interesting on TV or on platforms?
Yeah. There's, during COVID, I've been able to watch a lot of stuff.
Okay.
Oh my goodness, yes. Me and the whole freaking population of the world. You know, as the streaming networks scramble to find more stuff to put on because everybody's watching it. There have been some shows that I've watched. There've been some movies that I've seen that I really enjoyed. Some of them are science fiction in nature. Some of them are dramas. Some of them are horror. I've actually looked at a couple that were on, let's say, horror thriller. And I've been absolutely enamored. Some of the stuff has been just amazing, wonderful movies. A lot of them referred to me by friends, other people who have also been spending all their time watching stuff. And we just exchange all these ideas and things and check this out or check that out. But yes, there's been plenty of scripted narrative material, which is what Voyager is. Yeah. It's scripted narratives, it's movies, it's TV series. I tend to not watch that many series, really, because I prefer anthologies and movies. I prefer movies because it's a beginning, middle, and end. It's one story. And it tends to, you can watch it and not, have to fast forward through anything because it's dragging or they're filling it up with stuff. And I like to get on with the story. So I tend to like to watch movies, and I like to watch anthologies, which are basically miniature movies. Black Mirror, for example, is exquisitely written. As an anthology series. I mean, that thing is just crazy. One of my other tenets that I like to always talk about is, show me something I haven't seen yet. Show me a story that I haven't seen. I've been watching
you haven't seen yet,
and that will show you something you haven't seen. So anywhere along that lines, I'm happy to go. I've watched the Nevers, I've watched them, I've watched a bunch of shows that have been on. And I really enjoy some of the series stuff. Serials are also pretty good. A serial would be X-Files or Doctor Who, things like that, where you've got a major character, but each episode is different story. Yeah, and that way you have
because it's available on streaming platforms. Yeah, that way
that's right.
You have more inspiring content because it's not all about aliens on X-Files. If you know what I mean.
No. Yeah.
Of stories, yeah.
Yes. It's wide open, and as a matter of fact, it's wide open. It's a great platform. It's a great concept.
It can also be,
and it again, each episode gives you a new beginning, middle, and end. You can pretty much be assured that your main characters will be there next week. So it is a serial in that sense. Superhero shows are serials. Comic books are serials. So the stories can be different, but your main characters will be throughout. The other series that I typically don't watch are ones where you have major characters and you have a setting that's permanent. So the setting is always the same. It doesn't change. And the main characters are come and go, or they're the same, but you don't have, it's the same themes every week. A cop show, lawyer show, doctor show, all that stuff. That just bores me to tears. I don't watch that stuff. I don't care how it's written. I don't care whether it's good. I just can't watch it. I have to watch something that is very unusual, that is very unique, that is very different. There can be humor in it. There can be, some elements of the other genres in it. I'm fine with all that, but I just like to watch stuff that's different, that's interesting, that has a decent pace to it. Don't like stuff that drags and drags and drags. I like it to move a little bit, unless it's really done well, in which case I'll sit still for a while and watch it. And that's my own particular taste. I'm almost 65, so I've been watching frickin' movies and television since I was, 10 years old. So, okay, that's a lot of Yeah, well, over time, show me something I haven't seen.
Yeah, so
tell me a story.
Yeah, so I guess you like the stories that Discovery tells you more than you care for Picard. Maybe. What do you think about those two shows particularly?
No, I have not watched those shows as of yet because they are on a different streaming platform that I don't have.
Okay.
And that's the other thing. I don't want to pay for 22 streaming platforms. Thank you very much. When those shows bounce down to, Amazon or somebody else, secondary streaming platforms like Netflix or Amazon, then I might catch them. Right now, I haven't watched them yet. So,
which brings me to the next question, and it comes from my favorite Klingon again.
Well, if you liked Black Mirror, I would recommend to you Love, Sex, and Robots. That's a very, very good show.
Okay.
It's on Netflix.
What's it on? What platform?
Netflix.
What is it on?
It's on Netflix. It's a Netflix original show.
Love, Sex, and Robots?
Yes, it is an animated show which is basically made like Netflix. It explores it's made like Black Mirror, but it explores like very weird concepts. It's all animation. That's the more important thing. And every episode is a completely different story with a complete different style of animation, a complete different style of story.
Mm-hmm.
So the animation changes as well.
Yes, sir.
Between each episode.
Yes,
so these are standalone.
One time it's like strict drawings.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just 2D. I see. Well, that's interesting. Love, Sex, and Robots. And so each story is different. Well, I may check that out.
It's like Black Mirror animation short films. They are like some episodes are like 7 minutes long. Some are like 20 minutes long. It's a very interesting concept. Like I think you would appreciate it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but then I'll check that out. Cool.
Since you are in the entertainment industry and you are doing so many different things, what are some current projects you're working on, and what are some upcoming things that you want us to know about and let the people know?
Well, we did a reboot of just finished the reboot of Renegades Omanara, which is kind of based on the earlier version of Renegades that we did before, a couple 3 years ago. This one is a reboot as a series pilot project. It's just a pilot. So we filmed what is essentially a promo to pitch to the networks to see if we can get it off the ground. It's science fiction action. It features 3 female lead characters who basically start out, in the city streets in the future. But, they said surviving on the streets. That's where they're living in a temporary shelters and all kinds of tents and things like that. So they live by their wits on the streets. They're recruited by a scientist for some experiments that they could make, really good money on. And so, but in fact, he's using them for his own devious plans, and they break free from that, and they end up being recruited by, because they prove themselves in their efforts to get away from this guy. They prove themselves, and then they are recruited by someone to carry out special missions for him. And they are, they're not official, so they're operating under the radar. So that's the idea. So it's Renegades Omanara is what it's called. Omanara is the main character. It's an African American woman. She's really cool.
Okay. So
it's a cool piece, and it's supposed to be the younger version of Nichelle Nichols' character Uhura. It's her when she was young. It's her when she was younger. So, and that's who it's supposed to be.
Quite a bit today, actually.
Yeah. So that it's a cool piece. I'm working on. I've got a series here in town, which is with a production company. We're trying to pitch to a couple of streaming networks right now. So I'm partnered with them, Global Genesis Group, and also working on a biopic about an African American pilot from the early 1900s who flew for the French Army. So that's a fascinating piece. I cannot talk about it too much because I don't want anybody to run off with it. So
is it a pilot that who basically fled the United States and came to France to be a pilot?
That is correct. Yes,
I have
that's right.
Heard of that gentleman, but I don't recall the name right now.
Yeah, he is. That is exactly what the story is. An absolutely fascinating story. So right now I've got 2 different producers looking at it and interested in developing it. So It's a very early stages of that project. The script is done. It's probably going to be rewritten within a month or so, and then we'll try to get some funding for it. It's a heavy lift because it involves, 3 different periods in time, and also European locations. So it's a heavy lift, but it's a really good story, and it needs to be told. It's an American hero type story, but that takes place, overseas during World War I. So it's fascinating. That and working on directing a couple of projects. I was on board to direct 2 feature films. One is called Tops, which takes place in New York City, and it's a feel-good sort of comedy drama. And I've got another project that somebody's approached me on that shoots. I think I can't remember where that shoots, but these are projects that people have just contacted me for, reached out for me to direct and whatever. And I'm acting in a number of projects this month and next month, a couple of movies and a series called Unconventional. So, all these things, just juggling. Everything is up in the air. And as they come down, sometimes I catch them, sometimes I don't. So,
Sometimes you tell the casting person, I'm not interested.
Of course.
And sometimes I'll tell them I'm not interested. Yes. I've turned down work, a number of times, much to my agent's chagrin. They'll send me the stuff and I look at it and go, oh my God, I can't do that. And there's a couple of them that, a couple of reasons why sometimes I won't do them. And that it happens. And every actor basically who's been steadily working for a long time, they're not going to take everything. I financially don't need to take everything. So,
Russ, if you're such a busy person and you're wearing so many hats, and at the meantime, you also have time and somehow you keep getting your own personal project off the ground. How do you do that? It's a juggling act. All these things are on the stove and the fires are going, the flames are going, and sometimes one comes to a boil and sometimes one starts to cool off. So all the projects are in the air, but while they're in the air, you can handle it. It's once they get hot and they start happening, now you've got to put everything else aside and you got to focus on that project. So once the financing and or the word go for development or whatever it comes out to be comes for any one of these projects, or if I'm hired to direct a feature and they're budgeted and they're scheduled to shoot, okay, now I got to put everything else aside and I got to go ahead and focus on this and those other projects. When I have time off, I can certainly exchange emails and things as they develop. I can contact people and stay in touch with them and let them know, here's what my schedule is. I can talk tomorrow or talk today, or, when I get done with this, we can get this on the road. So it's just a matter of juggling. What it is the hardest is just keeping all the projects separate, and remembering what the stories are with 5 different scripts. What the stories of 5 different projects and 5 different scripts, and what the notes are, and what the suggestions were for changes and all that kind of stuff. Just keeping all that stuff separate. That's the tricky part.
And
beyond that,
on every one of those projects, right? So you get input from those. Also as well from the directors of photography. Are you trying to realize those 5 different projects with the same crew? No.
Not always. No, not always. The crews will tend to change sometimes. I've rotated between, say, for example, directors of photography. I've rotated between 3 or 4 that I have on a list. Sometimes they're not available. So that's one thing. And other times when they are available, I say, okay, well, you have time. Let's do this. And the deal is okay for them. So they come along. So I rotate between, the sound people I use, the post-production people I use, the editors that I use, the directors of photography that I use. I will refer these people to the project and say, here's who I'd like to work with. And they're usually okay with all that. And they're pretty cool. So, it all depends on where the project's shooting, what the project's paying, whether they're available or not, and who I really enjoy working with the most, from the top down. I mean, that's usually how I try to structure it.
Is it also hard
because all of them are able.
Sorry, is it also to focus on your vision? If you say you're financially independent, of course, right now you don't have to necessarily take one of those projects. What is your vision? What do you want to achieve? How do you keep, how do you keep the flame? How do you keep it burning?
Well, each one of these projects is a standalone in terms of what kind of project they are. Mm-hmm. They each have their own style and their own story. So the objective, obviously, is to take that script and bring that script to light. And I do work with the DP on some of this kind of thing, because that's their job, especially is also to design the lights and to also compose the shots. So I usually work very, very easily and very closely with the DP on these projects and putting them together and getting them out there based on what the script is and what it says. Also, the producers sometimes, want very specific things. And so I have to, I might be obligated to shoot some things certain ways because they want to see this or they want to see that. Mm. And that happens. And then once you get it in the editing room, it changes again because the editor is going to see this and see that, and it's going to be different. So I typically don't have any issue with or problem with working on the projects as we go from one genre to the next. So far, I've shot, almost every genre except a Western. I haven't done a Western yet, but I've shot in most of the genres: comedy, drama, horror. Period. I've shot Middle Ages stuff, science fiction, straight drama, contemporary. So I've got a lot of that on my resume as far as having worked on all these different types of films. Mm-hmm. And again, a lot of times it'll depend on the writing. It'll depend on the locations that we have, because you got to shoot the location that you have. And if you have a location that's really desirable and it's perfect, and they can't afford it, or we can't get there, or it's not available, now you got to go to the B location. Well, the B location may not be as interesting. So you got to adjust and make the most out of that B location. Mm. And if you have a budget that's too small, you only have a certain number of days to get a certain amount of pages shot. Now you're doing this. You're humping to get it done. And there's nothing, it may not be anything super, super special in the way you're doing it, because you have to get it done, in a certain amount of time. So you can't take forever, trying to get some particular shot or whatever, when you've got, 10, 11, 12 pages to shoot that day. Mm-hmm. That's the objective, is to get it done efficiently and quickly and in the can and hopefully in focus. And so everything can be used, and the coverage that you need for the editor to be able to cut the piece and create the tension and the pace for it, so that the editor can put it together, and we can tell the story of each scene and then tell the story of the whole piece. So if you don't have enough coverage for certain things, now you're stuck, holding the bag, because you can't finish the scene, or the scene can't start a certain way, or there's a point in the scene where we have to make a point, and we can't because we're missing one shot or two shots. So that to me is where I have to put all my focus, in those situations. If I've got a big budget and I've got a lot of time and I can take my time, then I'll storyboard everything with the DP. So we don't have to guess about stuff, we don't have to wing stuff when we get in there, based on where the location is. Everything is fixed. Everything is guaranteed. Then I can talk to them about, okay, here's what I want to do. Here's what I'm looking to do. And here's the style I want to see. I want to see saturated colors. I want to see washed out colors. I want to see, I want to see more noir in the lighting. I want to see more shadows in the lighting. And we can talk about all that beforehand, and that'll determine what the style is for the piece.
One question we have to ask you, because you are you, and you have you have played a critical role in science fiction, and you are very interested in technology and in science. We wanted to ask you, how do you think science fiction can inspire us in real life in future? Because, Star Trek with the small phones where they were talking into back in the 60s.
Yeah.
And now everybody has a phone. And
of course, not only technical stuff, but also the personal stuff, because different races. Do you think they nailed it on Star Trek Voyager, or they nail it on some other Star Trek related, maybe science fiction shows there?
In terms of what they might project for the future? Is that what you're asking?
In terms of not only technology, but also socially. Because we were talking about Lieutenant Uhura, and we were actually discussing Lieutenant Uhura today because she was part of the first black and white kiss on TV, which is like...
Yes, that is correct.
It's historical, and you being an African-American person playing a role as a Vulcan, we actually had... Because I was pretty sure you were the first African-American to play a Vulcan, but me and Manuel, we googled that, and there were some side roles before that, in
no major characters.
No major characters.
Right.
What do you think? How can science fiction help us
overcome
the problems that we have socially currently in the world?
I would say genetic engineering would be the key. Quite frankly. We could use a little bit of that in the United States, to be honest with you. If Star Trek is as pointed out, or has helped us to understand the way the future could be, interacting with other multiple cultures and races and things like that, by using aliens, of course, and humans as an example. The stories and the things are there, the mixes of the ethnic characters and casts and stuff being what they are, which has always been Roddenberry's thing. Have always shined a light on where the future of our culture and civilization and society could go. The only issues we have in reality, as far as, again, I'm in the United States, and we've just taken about 3 steps backwards in time. We are right now in the middle of trying to, reestablish our political foundation in this kind. Our democracy, our constitution is under threat.
I've had some rough past few years, right?
Rough. Yeah, almost impossible few years. Yeah. I have a reference point because I was raised in the 60s and 70s. I was around when the Vietnam riots were happening and the civil rights riots were happening. I mean, this country was torn apart by all of that stuff. At that time, and now it's being torn apart again. A lot of the same kind of thing, although it's framed and formed differently, and it's presented differently. But what you have now is closer to, I would say, the science fiction piece 1984, George Orwell. That's the piece that that's what we're kind of dealing with right now. And I don't think, to be honest with you, I don't know if Discovery has done it or Picard has done it, and they should be doing it. You guys have watched those shows, you would know. They need to do a piece that has to do with disinformation, the peddling of disinformation and misinformation and lack of information, right? This is where we're at now. This is where we're at present in 2021. This is the future that exists for us today, is we're under siege by a relative minority of the population, which is backed by a lot of money, and they want certain things for this society, certain things that we have moved past already, certain things that have already been, dealt with and decided. And we're the rest of us, who are the majority, are trying to move into the future, the future that Star Trek presents. We're trying to go that direction. They want to go back to the Dark Ages. They want to go back to the time where there was oppression and there was suppression and where there was exclusion and where there was inequality. That's where they want to go. And we want to go the other direction. So within this society, by number, there are fewer of them. The problem is the political rule. The people in charge of a lot of the politics in the country, the legislators and the lawmakers, are also in that group. So they can make laws, which they're doing right now, that take away the rights of the majority, of the bigger number of people. The whole point of a democracy is the majority rule. Mm-hmm. And what they want is a minority rule. And that's where we are right now. So compare that to, I don't know if, like I said, if Discovery or Picard has done anything about this, but the major culprit of this thing is based on 1984, George Orwell's 1984, which is the state, as it were, has one truth, and there's a real truth that's over here. So the state says this, but the real truth is over here. Well, so the question of what's real.
It is a struggle for the truth, actually.
Struggle for truth, and also trouble, and also the dissemination of facts and information. You know, you can't have a citizenry in a population that is polluted by misinformation. You can't have a citizenry that is educated and aware when they've been polluted by disinformation, by misinformation, by no information, not given the information that they need. How do you make a decision? How do you focus on things? We have a citizenry now in this country that believe in abject fantasy, 100% fantasy that is being peddled by television networks that are supposed to be news, and they're not news. They are propaganda. 1984, Hitler-style propaganda, point blank, flat out propaganda. That is not giving them the information that they need, not telling them when things are happening that they need to know about, and instead telling them about other things that are not true and not happening, things that are not actual facts. They coined the phrase alternative facts, man. Alternative facts. Okay? Is that like alternative gravity? Is that like if you jump off a building, you might not crash to the ground?
Yeah.
You understand how, it's funny on its surface. It can be very funny, but it's actually the most destructive force in the goddamn country.
In the goddamn world, actually.
In the world, actually.
Yeah. Because here in Austria,
yes, in the world,
same thing going on as well.
Yeah. But since we are,
well, where are you guys based? You're in Austria, yeah?
In Austria, yes, in Vienna, sir.
Well, I don't know I don't know what the Austrian leadership is like, and what's going on there. I just know that, here it's an absolutely abysmal. I mean, you guys have been watching it for the last 4 years. I mean, we have the former leader of the country, elected quite by accident, I might add. That was an anomaly. We have a lot of anomalies in science fiction, right? Yeah. You're out in space and it's an anomaly, something you can't understand. Well, it was not understandable, but it was.
It was Q.
It was something that was not. And so, point of fact, that person who led the country has refused to basically concede power. And so they're like a leader in exile, if you will. In the old days, a leader would be in exile. So he's like a political leader in exile, with his followers, with the people that support him. And also,
his golf club.
Yeah. Oh, yes, his golf club, right. He's in exile in Florida.
Yeah.
And with his followers, and with 3, not 1, but 3 cable news networks that also support his fantasy and his craziness and everything else. 3 news networks. The difference between then and now is that then, when I grew up, there were only 3 news networks, but they all reported the same news. They all reported the same facts. You see the difference here? Now you have news that reports alternative facts. And this is the problem we have. This is what's killing us. It is eating us alive. And I don't really know how to get over that, to overcome that issue. Because talking about Star Trek, Star Trek is, that was not one of the things that the story or the series dealt with. They haven't dealt with that kind of thing. I'd be interested to find out how they could put together a story that parallels, then they should be doing something that parallels what we're going through in this country right now.
Well, the problem is in my opinion, the problem that you have in the United States and fairly in every free society in the world is how do you balance freedom of opinion and freedom of information, and with this new thing that has came along, which is like, call it whatever you want, but like fake news, because somebody can, a news network, a person, a politician can say something which is completely obnoxious and call it his opinion, and he has a right to his opinion.
You have to educate people, I think. You have to educate them.
Well, yeah, you cannot look, you cannot, there's free speech, and then there's yelling fire in a crowded theater. You cannot yell fire in a crowded theater. So there have to be guardrails. You also cannot threaten someone. You cannot threaten their life. You cannot threaten violence. That is not free speech. That is threatening violence. It's against the law. We actually have laws that prevent that from happening. You cannot yell fire in a crowded theater because it causes a riot and people can get hurt. Mm-hmm. You cannot lie about a pandemic because people can die. You cannot refuse to honor the constitutional laws of the country because that is illegal. So these things are not free speech. That is not free speech. That is against the law. That is threatening human life. That is illegal, and it is harmful in any way, shape, or form. That is not free speech. So there are guardrails that are in that provision. You have permission to drive a car, but you don't have permission to run over somebody. There are regulations and laws for all of the rights that you have in the country. You have all kinds of rights, but you do not have the right to go beyond a certain point when it comes to harming in any way, shape, or form other people. Defamation on an individual basis is why we have a defamation law. That's why we have lawsuits that settle for people who have been harmed by someone else's words. So there are limits to what somebody can say or do when those factors are at risk. And so, the question is, how do you implement those? How do you carry out and execute those laws when they are broken? What do you do about them? And that's where we're at here in this country, is that we're not doing anything about a lot of that.
The thing is, there is something special going on in the United States, because whatever, in the rest of the world, what I am aware of, what I have seen in Europe at least, like things like a sickness might kill you, or, burning stuff and pumping the smoke into the air is not a matter of belief. You cannot say I don't believe in global warming or in pollution or in
a good point.
Whatever. It is in the United States. It actually is a matter of belief. You can say
it is
something like politicians or like really reputable people can say, I do not believe. Like, if I put a gun to your head and pull the trigger and you don't believe in the bullet,
not a good idea.
You're going to be dead. Yeah. Well, this you said it exactly correct. The powers that exist that are manipulating many of our elected officials. There are certain things that they don't want. There are certain ways and certain things they don't want to do. And so they spend a lot of money trying to get people elected into office to do what they want. It's not to the benefit of the rest of the people in the country or the planet. And that is happening as well. That is fight number 2 on our forefront. Right now, the special interests, that's what they're called, may not want to, they don't want to give up this and that because they're losing profit. They don't want to go green because they don't make as much money, whatever it might be. They don't want to pay taxes, which support the government, which supports the rest of the people. They don't believe in a government that supports people. We actually have many of our sitting representatives who are being paid by tax dollars from me, okay, being paid by the government for their jobs and their health care, by the way, they don't want the government to help anyone else. They don't want the government to take care of the people who support the government. And this is a doctrine. It's called federalism, if you need to know the word. They are federalists. There was a group that existed when the country was first formed as the United States. They were a group. They were a political group, and they disintegrated and they went away. But these people still have adopted the doctrine of federalism, which is basically the government has no responsibility to the people in terms of health care, in terms of social welfare, safety nets, programs, whatever it might be. They have nothing to do with it. And they don't believe in paying taxes. Don't want to pay any taxes. Okay? The richest people on the planet don't want to pay a dime in taxes. This is the problem. This is the problem. As far as getting legislation done and getting stuff happening, because you're hamstrung by that. What those people do with that, economical power and influence, as it were, is that they rally the uneducated and the poor, who are mostly white, mostly Caucasian in this country, mostly male. They show them or sell them a bill of goods that has to do with their country is changing. You see, their country is no longer what it used to be in the 1950s. Women, they're all taking your jobs. Immigrants are all taking your jobs. Minorities, blacks, taking your job. Oh my God, they're taking your tax dollars and are wasting them. They're buying Cadillacs with them and all this stuff. All that stuff. They are the worst. All these people have to be in all these entities. Oh, gays are getting married. Oh my God. Religion. Oh, they don't believe in religion. They're going to take your religion away. This is all the same stuff. This stuff here is what's called propaganda. They are propagandized into believing all of that crap, which is called culture wars. We call it culture wars here. That's what we call it. Culture wars. They have nothing to do with anything. They're just made up bullshit. But that's what they believe in. So that's what the rich and the powerful gather their networks, their cable networks that they all own. Each one of those cable networks is owned by billionaires. OAN, Newsmax, Fox. Fox is owned by Rupert Murdoch. He's a multi-millionaire. He's a billionaire publisher. By the way, he hates journalism, just so you know. And he's in charge of Fox. He owns Fox. Newsmax owned by a billionaire. OAN owned by a billionaire. You see what's happening. The billionaires want to control and want to manipulate everyone else, and so they need the rabble. They need the poor rabble, to come with them, to vote for them, to fight for them, to do whatever for them. But they don't tell them that they're going to take their every dime that they have. They'll be able to feed their kids or educate their kids because they want to take that all away. They're not going to tell them that. They just tell them that, oh, look over there. Look at those people over there. They're the ones that are causing all your problems. Look, Adolf Hitler did the same thing, man. Okay, did he not? Hello? He did the same thing. Stalin's done it. North Korea does the same thing. Kim Jong-il and his ancestors do the same thing. Who's the enemy over there? Oh, that's right, we are. We're the enemy, the constant enemy. That's also in 1984. 1984 is a permanent war between three countries. It never ends. It's always that. It's always a fight for victory. Always for victory, right? There's always the exterior, the other. They're the other that we have to get rid of. They're the other that are causing your problems. So you have to vote for us so that the other can't get to you. Fear, and that's what they operate on, is fear. Irrational, unsubstantiated fear. And they're as dumb as a goddamn brick, so they're easy to manipulate, okay? Most of them are uneducated. They're uneducated. They're stupid. And so you can manipulate them. You can mold them like putty. And they react to fear. They react to stuff. It's like, who in the hell cares whether, who's living in your house 2 houses down from you? Who gives a shit? I mean, when's the last time that affected how much your utility bill was? It has nothing to do with anything, but they're so caught up in that. That's the message. The people at the top pay for the propaganda to appeal to the minority at the bottom, to try to cause the country to go down the goddamn toilet. and I hate to get off on the politics, guys, but I live in this country, and I'm an American citizen, and I've been here for 65 goddamn years. I know what has come before, and I know what the bullshit is that's unraveling before my eyes. And it's the most frustrating thing that you can ever imagine, man. We are dealing with crazy fucking people. QAnon, are you serious? We actually have a representative in our Congress for the country who is from that faction of conspiracy theories, Jewish space lasers and goddamn Italians controlling our blood. Come on, man. I mean, what the hell is that bullshit? They're sitting in the seat of power right now.
Yeah.
You see what I'm talking about?
They marched into the Capitol. So
if this
they broke into the Capitol.
If this would be a trailer for a science fiction series, I would definitely watch that because it's tense. It has drama inside. And
yes, it has drama. That would be
at some point I would realize, oh my God, that's actually the news.
Yeah, that would be Handmaid's Tale. They want Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah.
They want all of that. I guarantee you. We're right now, the courts are deciding. Right now, the Supreme Court, the highest court in the land, which is supposed to be based on the Constitution of this country, which is supposed to make decisions based on the Constitution of the country, the rights of the underdog, the rights of everyone being equal. They are now deciding. They are going to decide on a law that's been put forth that would take away women's rights to choose, which was decided 50 years ago. 50 years ago. Been decided, already done. But they want to take that away. They want to control women like they did in the 1950s. This is what is happening in the highest court of our country right now. And we don't know what kind of decision they're going to make. Women in the country would be subjugated, having to have against their will, if they are raped or if there's incest, if they are not able to take care of them financially, they would be forced to give birth to a child to carry to term, even if the child has a genetic defect.
Yeah.
You can't, this is what is being decided right now.
You know what's...
Wow. Because of this mentality, because of the mentality of this God minority in this country. 1984. I'm telling you.
You know what
that's what this is.
This kind of politics or this kind of parties, wherever they are on the world, they never pass laws about things that they must do. Their laws that they pass or they try to pass is always about things other people must do. Like, yes, you cannot abort because that might affect me. How the fuck is aborting, when somebody's aborting their child, how the hell is that going to abort you? Affect you? Yeah. How?
No.
Or,
yeah, of course.
How does it affect you? Who is making love to who? But I understand you, Tim Russ, because you, as you said, you have lived 65 years in that country. And if, for example, this is Roe versus something, this decision, right?
Roe v. Wade. Yes. Roe v.
Wade. Yes. It's Roe v. Wade. So if Roe v. Wade can be repelled, can the civil rights can be repelled? You understand?
Yeah, absolutely.
Of changing. Oh, look, people, we can go back. We can open Pandora's box and go back to that, great time.
Oh, 100.
We were great.
And they want to. Yeah. Yes, and they want to. And actually, Roe v. Wade, that is an issue of civil rights.
Exactly.
That is an issue of civil rights. Yeah. At one time, it was illegal for a black woman and a black man and a white woman to get married. That also went to the Supreme Court. It's called Loving. And actually, their last names were Loving. That's crazy. But that Loving case was also decided in the Supreme Court because one of the states had a law on the books that said that interracial marriage was illegal. And so they overturned that. That is a civil right. That's what civil rights are. Your civil rights are whether two people who are gay want to get married is an issue of civil rights. Blacks get interracial marriage, civil rights. Abortion, civil rights. You have the civil rights. Police, brutality is a violation of civil rights. All those are civil rights issues. Not being discriminated against when you're looking to buy a house. That's an issue of a civil right. Or being discriminated on.
In Austria, a town council forbade a family to buy a house in their town.
Why?
2 years ago, because they were Muslim.
Really?
Yeah.
Same thing. The same thing.
Tim Ross, I have a lot of passion for this issue because you have to understand you are living in the United States, but you have to understand what kind of a role United States plays in the world. If you people pass, like in the United States, if you pass a law in, civil rights direction, it affects the whole world. Like United States made civil rights fashionable, so it affected.
Yes.
It did. Like, who was behind civil rights?
Yeah.
It was like all the cultures people and all the artists and the singers and the actors. They were behind, like, the Rat Pack. Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra. They used to be all up in people's grills for civil rights because they were like, yo, this guy's like Sammy Davis Jr. is our friend, but he cannot go to the clubs with us. And he cannot sleep in the same hotels with us, even though he's performing with us every night. So this is
exactly.
If United States goes back 1 inch, the world will move because basically in Europe there's a lot of right-wing parties, and they are not like your Republican right wing. They are like openly racist parties that are just waiting for some wind to change so they can open their sails and ride on that.
Yeah, well, let me tell you something. You hit it right on the head. And you're right. When the United States coughs, everybody else catches a cold. I understand that.
Exactly.
And in point of fact, our Republican Party is indeed openly racist. They are now 100% openly racist. They're not even hiding it anymore. It is absolutely bald-faced racist. There's no hiding it. They are also anti-democratic. Two things that the major political party, half of our bloody government, has done this. It would be the same as, are you guys parliamentary in Austria? What do you have, a parliament?
Parliament, yes, sir.
You have a parliament. It'd be as if half your parliament decided to advocate their responsibilities as governing body, as if they said, we don't care what happens to the people that we represent. We are going to just stand there with our arms folded, and we're not going to do a damn thing because we don't like the other party. I mean, that's what they've done here. They basically have said, they're in the position that we are the enemy. We are the enemy. The other side is the enemy. They are not to be dealt with, not to be worked with. They are to be beaten so that we can have power back again. That's where we are right now.
So
that's where we are.
It's like absolute war. It
is 100%. It is 100% opposition, 100% war, 100% battle. And you cannot govern a country if the governing bodies refuse to govern.
Yeah.
We are trying to get legislation passed. They're trying to take away our right to vote. What's that?
Have you guys thought about not paying them? I'm
yeah.
Sure they don't have a strike fund or something like that. So
no. The only problem with that is, they fund the IRS, and the IRS will be the agency that's going to come after you if you don't pay your taxes.
Yeah.
I would love to see, 3/4 of this country just refuse to send another dime to Washington 100% right off the bat. I would love to see that, but that is not going to happen because that would be a science fiction movie right there. That's almost impossible. But the only thing we have, and they're trying to take away our right to do that, is to vote. Right now, they are passing laws which prevent people from voting, which make it harder for people to vote because they know that the majority of the country has more numbers than they do. They are the minority, and they're a growing minority. They're getting smaller and smaller. We know that. So right now, a lot of our states that are run by Republicans are trying to pass laws that can restrict access to voting. They are literally making it harder for your citizens to carry out the sacred constitutional right of voting in this country. Voting. That is the backbone of the goddamn democracy. And they are doing it. They openly support the lunatic who's just lost his office, the president, the former president. They still openly support him. He's a losing, psychopathic criminal, basically, insurrectionist, twice impeached president. They support him, openly support him. Half the government supports the lunatic, the defrocked, the loser, the ex-president, the one who refuses to advocate his job, his position, the one that refuses to concede, his position as president of the United States. This is what we have right now, man.
Yeah,
if it was just the manager over here at the manager at some retail store, who cares? If it's just some folks online sending a bunch of emails and websites and posts and blog posts and bullshit like that, talking about crazy shit, who cares? That's fine. That's free speech.
You know what the good thing is about democracy? You don't have to accept that you lost. It's like getting fired. You don't have to accept that you got fired.
Yeah.
You got fired.
Yeah. The good thing about the bad thing about what happened is that when you get fired, you can't be coming back to the job, and shooting everybody over there because you're pissed off. You can't keep coming there because your job is done. It's over. So you can't come back to that job because you no longer have that job. So that's what's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
And that's not what's happening.
Yeah.
So the democracy is about there's more of us than there are of you. And so we, as a majority, are supposed to have the rule. That's how a democracy works. It's been around since ancient Greece. Mm-hmm. It's a pretty stable system. Worldwide, it's one of the most worldwide, systems on the planet. That's because it works.
It's the system that worked best in history.
Well,
yes, it is the system that has worked best in history. It's the system that works best now, right now, today, when it's allowed to work. But what the problem is that we did not see this coming. We were not. It was an anomaly. It was a freak accident. These kinds of things happen. COVID was a freak accident. It's a freak thing. We didn't know it was coming. We didn't see it coming. It just came, and here we are. So we couldn't. We elected this clown because our Constitution says you only have to be 35 and a citizen. That's the stipulation for being president of the United States. You don't have to have an education. Yeah, you don't have to have an education. You don't have to have an education. You don't have to be smart. You don't have to be. You can be a criminal. You'll probably have a criminal record. Who cares? You can do whatever. You can be a psychopath. You can be a psychopath. Yes, you only have to be 35 and a citizen to be president of the United States.
If you're a criminal, and that's like basically the religion over there.
Yes. Well, no, you can buy guns if you're a criminal over here, because a lot of states have taken away the gun laws that were in place before. That's the Republican Party, by the way.
Yeah. Okay.
They are all about guns. They're all about shooting people and killing people. They are all about that. 100% in favor of guns being used to shoot and kill people. That's the political party we're talking about. We have the majority party, which is a Democratic Party. We are moving to 2021. We want a world without nuclear weapons. We want a world without, people shooting and killing each other every fucking day. We want a world of civil rights and equality. We want a world where there's a democracy. We want a world where there's a climate and air and water to drink and air to breathe. We want a world where the children have someplace safe to grow up and get an education. We want an educated society. We are the Democratic Party. We are moving to 2021. They are moving the opposite direction. 100% the opposite direction.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying, but do you openly support, for example, on the next elections, Democratic Party, or are you trying to plan to go into politics yourself, maybe?
Oh, hell no. I can't do politics, man.
Okay.
Look,
California might need a new governor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look. Actually, that whole campaign against California Governor Newsom, who's like one of the best governors we've had, by the way, that was initiated by the Republicans. That's Republican propaganda. That's what you just said and heard is Republican propaganda. We have Gavin Newsom got us through this COVID crisis, and mind you, better than most of the states in this country. We have a $70 billion surplus in California after a year of shutdown from COVID. We have $70 billion in surplus in our state, fourth largest economy in the world. We have weathered COVID better than any other state in this goddamn country because of this governor. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's Republican propaganda is what you're talking about. They tried to get the bots going, the internet bots. They tried to get some discussion. They tried to get this out and yelling on the news, talking about everybody wants him out. Nobody wants him out. The Republicans want him out. We want him in. That's what propaganda does. That's how dangerous this crap is. Because people aren't thinking. Literally, I live in the state. I know. I live in LA. I benefited from California with unemployment insurance because we couldn't work all year. That came straight from California. When the money ran out, they found more money to help keep people afloat. That's the state of California. I lived here. I experienced that from our governor. So somebody tell me why he's doing such a shitty job. No, he's not doing a fucking shitty job. It's because the propaganda that's been spread has said that he's doing a shitty job. This is the difference. People's own eyes and ears, they cannot understand and see because they listen to a bunch of bullshit that's being spread. So at the end of the day, yes, I can't run for politics because I'm not a politician, man. That's not my job. I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna be an astronaut. I'm not gonna fucking be an accountant. I'm not gonna do all those goddamn things. I am an actor, and that's what I do. That's all I do. Somebody else who knows how to do that shit and does it well can run for office, man, until the fucking cows come home. I don't have time. I'm fucking 65, man. I'm too old for this shit. You got to be like 20 or 30 to do this.
You don't have to do that. There's only one thing I might add, kind of off topic. Trump inspired me to do one thing because I got fired from my actual job on a TV station like three times in, I think 2 or 3 months, and I still kept going on the job.
He literally got fired and he came back to work the next day and they forgot.
Yeah, the boss forgot about it.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
They forgot that they fired you?
They forgot it.
How does that work?
No, yeah, the boss, there are two main figures in our company. And I said, well, okay, thank you, sir. And,
I just went back to work tomorrow.
I just went back to work the next day. And on the next day, we were sitting at the same table and he was not mentioning a thing. And I didn't also receive any notice or something like that. So, well, and the junior kicked me out 2 times. And he also forgot to mention it to his secretary. So, yeah, I was kicked out 3 times. I think I'm not capable of losing my job at this point, actually. So
that still works there. He still works there.
All right, that's the craziest shit I've ever heard. I've never heard of anybody being fired 3 times from a job and then going back to work at the job. How does that, that's crazy, man. That's crazy. What are they doing it as a hobby?
That's our.
It must be. Is it a hobby of theirs? It must be their hobby to fire people and then let them back on. Do they just enjoy doing that for kicks? Oh my God,
something like
that's crazy, man.
And it's also it's actually quite funny to work there. I'm kind of interested if the entertainment industry in Hollywood works the same way. I don't know, but I think I'm well prepared now as I got fired 3 times. Well, and last week I got the feedback from my superior, from my supervisor, like, yeah, you're doing a great job, man. You'll keep it up. You're doing a great job.
Hey, look. You should go in there. You should go in there tomorrow and tell them you're the boss. They'll probably let you be the boss.
Maybe.
I mean, what the fuck, man?
So, Tim Russ, we thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
And for
my pleasure. I'm sorry I had to go off on a
conversation.
And thank you. I'm sorry I went off on a I'm sorry I went off on a tangent, but politics.
It was a pleasure for us.
It was an absolute pleasure.
My pleasure as well. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
And
thank you.
Yeah, see you maybe at the Griffin Observatory at some time. Maybe.
Yes.
I'm going to be up there. I'm going to be up there as soon as they open it up. I'm going up. So I'll be there.
As we can travel, we might come to California to meet.
Yeah. Now, are you guys going to go to? Well, you guys might go to the conventions. Are they still going to have this convention in Germany this year or no?
Yeah. Yes. I think it's been postponed until the end of next year. I think on the website.
The end of next year.
The end of next year.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. I probably will be there. I'll probably be there for that.
We would love to meet you if you are, sir. Yeah.
Very good. I'll also be in London this November. I'm going to London for that convention as well. Great. Destination Trek, I think it is. Yeah, I'll be there as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Russ.
Take care. Yeah. You take care, man. Have a good one.
You too, sir.